everyone, and welcome to the grand finale of the 3-week GSP Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival with Vishwaram. We've had a phenomenal 3 weeks of shows, workshops, storytelling sessions, and today is the final day of the second edition. And, I look forward to the next third edition. But I hope all of you had a great time, dear parents, and I hope the children were able to see sessions as well. What better to end the festival than speak to somebody so illustrious and, somebody who I was floored, by and his work on my recent trip to Goa. As all of you know, I spent a couple of weeks in Goa and I shared my travel log with all of you. And I was at the Museum of Goa and I met this wonderful gentleman, Mr. Subodh Kerkar, who is also here as, today as our guest, talking to us about art appreciation and, what is it that we as parents can do to keep the originality and the personality of our children intact, how they can express themselves, and so much more. So, without further ado, Subodh sir, a very, very warm welcome to our channel, Get Set Parent with Pallavi. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So I want to start by introducing our illustrious speaker today. So of course, Mr. Subodh Kerkar, he's based out of Goa, but he has, he's a globetrotter putting up exhibitions and talking about art across the globe. What's interesting is he is a qualified medical doctor, and but he gave that up to pursue art professionally for the last 30 years. He's an artist and an activist and uses art to comment on social, political, religious, and other issues. He has spent his childhood on the beaches of Keri in the northern border of Goa with his father. And I think that was, he'll probably share with us more, but that was the seeds of, the love for art which grew during those early years. His installations are heavily washed by the ocean, both literally and metaphorically, and he creates installations using thousands of mussel shells, pebbles, palm leaves, boats, fishermen, and sand. He's the founding director of the Museum of Goa and has exhibited widely in India and abroad in galleries and in museums. So it's an absolute honor to have somebody of your experience and repute today, and we can't wait to hear from you. And on behalf of all parents, I have a lot of questions on, as parents of young children, what should we do and what are we doing wrong and what can we set right? But before that, I would like you to, take your time and maybe 10-12 minutes, give us some opening thoughts on what you want to share with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here. And I think it's really wonderful to talk to parents of school-going children, because I think it's very important that children are brought up in the right way and with art as a participant in that process. That's very, very important. Let me begin with one simple remark that I was a medical doctor. I was a successful medical doctor, and I was running a hospital of my own. Okay. And to give up a successful medical career and to come into a very sort of a word of art, which is not a word where you can make some sure money as such, because it's a very risky way. Because right. You can't become an artist saying that, okay, let me become an artist and I will earn my living out of art, because that doesn't usually work. Yeah. And so to do that was a big step for me. And when I started my hospital, most of my patients were fishermen. And so I got very much connected with the fishermen, because my hospital was right on the beach. And I used to actually joke about it that we deliver babies to the music of the ocean.
Wow.
So we were right on the beach, and fishermen were my patients. And slowly, this things changed in Goa, especially Kalangut, where I come from. It became sort of a big tourist attraction, and
Right.
lots of European tourists started coming in. And almost, 60%, 70% of my patients then were British tourists suffering from loose motions. So the idea of spending my lifetime in the service of British loose motions was not very palatable. I think we have better
Very
to
well
do.
put.
And I thought India has taken enough shit from the British for 150 years. I didn't want to take any.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And well, I did not dislike medicine. I liked medicine, but I liked art more. And for last 30 years, I'm doing art. And I can tell you, I'm one of the happiest persons on earth. And I believe that if you do something which you love to do, then there's a possibility you'll be happy. And if you do something which you do not like to do, you'll be definitely unhappy. So the simplest advice I can give to any parents, which also, I give to my children, not that I only tell other children to do it, is please pursue your passion. Do not think about if I take this, what is going to happen. So I think it is very important to do exactly what you like to do, and then there is a possibility of being happy. And there is only one purpose to life, and that is to be happy. There is no other purpose of life. And so please pursue the passion. Now, coming to art, let me just make a few comments on what is the situation about art in this country, especially.
Sure.
We have a population of 1.3 billion people. But I can tell you with absolute authenticity that in a country of 1.3 billion people, not more than 1 lakh people connect with contemporary art. And that too is an exaggeration. And when I say only 1 lakh in a country of 1.3 billion, and now let me just give a simple test to my listeners. I will tell you 10 names. And let me understand how many of the listeners today have heard of these names.
Okay.
Subodh Kerkar, Sudarshan Shetty, Riaz Komu, Krishnamachari Bose, Vivan Sundaram, Vasudev Gaitonde, Francis Newton Souza, Pushpamala, Vishwanathan, and and MF Hussain.
Maybe
now,
the last one.
Yeah, but now I'm not exactly testing anybody.
Yeah.
These are the names of the most important contemporary artists of India. And these are the artists who are like Amitabh Bachchan's and Amir Khan's of the visual contemporary art world.
All right.
And yeah, they are Amitabh Bachchan's and Amir Khan's of the contemporary art world. And most of the people have not heard of them for the simple reason that you never had an opportunity to see their work. So in this country, hardly a lakh of people know about these artists because they have made efforts, so they have special interest and they go and check out the world of contemporary art. Others have no idea. For no fault of theirs, they never had an opportunity. If you don't have an opportunity, how will you know it? Like in a place like Bhopal, for example, which is actually one of the blessed places.
Yes.
You have Bharat Bhavan, and there you can see works of many of these artists whom I just mentioned. But then there is only one Bharat Bhavan, and most people do not have, they have access to it, but somehow interest has not.
Interest doesn't build, yeah. Yeah.
So this is the reason why when you say art, most people think that art is something which decorates your wall. That's the basic idea of art. And it has to be a landscape, a beautiful landscape of the ocean or the river.
Yeah.
It can be a hillscape, or it can be a portrait of Shivaji Maharaj or Rana Pratap Singh or Buddha, or maybe a lady with a wet sari holding a pot next to the river. So this is a general
stereotypical frames of art.
Frames of art. This is what is considered as art by most people. So with these opening remarks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a few ideas.
Okay.
And then you can, we could then continue the conversation.
Sure.
But I will just do a few opening remarks with some slides.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will share the screen now.
Yes, please.
Yeah. The title of this talk, this is a long talk, it won't be finished within half an hour, so I'm going to only reduce it 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Why art? Now, this is something which is art, supposed to be art in Surat. Somebody has made a replica of Eiffel Tower, and which is maybe they have spent maybe about 50-60 lakhs rupees for it. And somebody donated it, obviously, thinking that this is art. We have this big sculpture where 500 crores or more is spent. I have nothing to do with the political part of it, whether it is Patel or it is Gandhi or whether it is whoever it is, but it is very bad sculpture. It is bad art. With that money, one could have created a work of art which was fantastic, which could be fantastic. So this is bad art, for which, for some political reasons, 500 crores have been spent. And the same thing is happening with a huge sculpture of Shivaji, the largest in the world, but some ordinary sculpture created by maybe somebody who does Ganesha idols or something is sort of multiplied into maybe 200 meters, and that becomes art. So this is because we do not understand, we have no connections. Now, I would make a very blatant statement that in this country, we have not created public art of substance for 350 years. The last interesting public art happened is in Vijayanagar, in Hampi, in Karnataka. After that, we have not created anything. That does not mean we do not have great artists. We have great artists here, but those who choose art do not have the sensibilities to choose great art. There might be some exceptions. I would not say nothing at all happened. I'm not a cynic. But at the same time, people who choose, for example, if you have a heart problem, you will go to a heart specialist, a cardiologist. You don't go to the secretary health. Yeah. Say, okay, please treat me. The same way, when you want to choose public art, you have to go to a curator. You don't, the chief minister or the chief secretary has no business to choose art because they're not qualified to do it. And in the olden days, when the kings of Vijayanagar or the kings who ruled when the Ajanta and Ellora were created, when they chose art, they already had a connection with art because these kings, their father was collecting art, grandfather was collecting art. So they could decipher what is good art and what is bad art. So they chose good artists. They did not choose party workers. Those who support their party, they did not choose those. They chose good artists. And that is why we have a great legacy in Ajanta Ellora or in the temples of Bhubaneswar or temple. I mean, so much of great art has happened in this country. But the choice is made wisely. And today we do not have leaders who are qualified to choose art. So with this, let me come to the children. Now, why do children scribble on the wall? I mean, you see children scribbling all the time. And many times they also get reprimanded for scribbling on the wall because they say you are spoiling the wall. And then we have products which are used even to get rid of the scribble. Those are available in the market. Now, children scribble, children draw because they want to communicate their inner world with us, with a sympathetic listener. They have a lot of things going on. They're in their own world. And that world they want to communicate. So we cannot ask a child who is drawing, what are you drawing? But a child perhaps does not know what the child is drawing. The child is making an attempt to do something, share the inner world with the sympathetic viewer, sympathetic listener. So it's only important to encourage the child. Don't correct your child because there is nothing called a wrong painting and a right painting. That doesn't exist. It's just an expression. And so it is important just to encourage. That's the most important thing. Never have to correct your child that you are drawing wrongly because there is nothing called a wrong drawing and a right drawing. And don't ask them to imitate. Let them go absolutely free. And this idea of not imitating, not instructing, and not telling the child is very, very important, not just in art, but in general education. Because I basically believe that the purpose of education is to help the child, help everybody to explore the world on first-hand basis, not through imitation, not through dictation. An intelligence to explore and know the world and be at peace with the world. have a kind of a symbiotic relationship with yourself and your surroundings, and exploring your surroundings on first-hand basis without prompting, without dictation, is the purpose of education. And that is also the inspiration for art. The moment there is instruction, then you will not create a great artist. So the children should be allowed to question everything. It's not just, I mean, they can question religion, they can question customs, traditions, scriptures. The moment you tell them to join a fanatic organization, that this is right and this is wrong, it is over. You will create a mediocre child. If your child has to be intelligent, the child has to be given complete freedom to explore the world. Now, when the children scribble, do adults scribble on the wall? Once upon a time, they did. So we had adults who expressed what they felt, what they experienced on the walls of the caves. And the very reason why they did this was they were not told by anybody to do this or not to do this. They were not yet conditioned. The conditioning machine, which is set by the society and very often by many of our educational systems, had not arrived yet. And so they could freely express, and we see such great works of art all over the world. Now, this is the oldest work of art in the world. It's not in India, unfortunately, because these days everybody claims that everything great has happened in India in the past. It is not so. This is in France. This is a cave which is called Lacausse's Cave in France, which is 18,000 years old. Incidentally, the oldest cave paintings in India are in your state, in Bhopal. The Bhimbetka are about
yes.
About 10,000 years old, but these are older than that. And these paintings are basically an expression of that time. This is the first human depiction in history. And this is about 18,000 years old in this cave in France. A human figure older than this does not exist, drawn by a human being.
Interesting. Okay.
So these are all animals. Now, why did people draw this? Why did the cavemen draw these animals and hunting scenes? That's because the primary engagement of the cavemen was finding food. And so, obviously, that was occupying their mind so much, and that's what they expressed. And so we have wonderful cave paintings of bulls and all of the animals in this cave in France, and also in Bhimbetka. We have hunting scenes there. And I tell you, when Picasso looked at this drawing, Picasso remarked, he said, "This is the ultimate. Nothing better has happened ever in the world of art." Because this is the truest human expression. Art is an expression of an era. It's a whisper of an era. And artists are some kind of sensors, receptors, and transmitters of ideas in a society. That's why artists have a big role to play, because they're sensors, they're receptors, and they're transmitters of ideas. And Picasso found this as one of the greatest paintings he saw ever. That's because this is a very true expression. This has not been a conditioned expression. Nobody was doing any ism this time. They were just expressing, and this is a very, very honest expression of the experiences which the cavemen had. The scribble continues. I mean, we also scribble as adults here, but not art, perhaps, names of who is in love with whom. But this instinct to express continues everywhere. Now, I would say that if we want to keep some people as our ideal, I think the tribals, and you have abundant of them in Madhya Pradesh, we should all try to be tribals, because the tribals are the ones who live art. For them, art is not something you go in a gallery and buy. Art is part of their life. So what I'm going to do is, they dance, they wear such beautiful costumes, they make their own jewelry, they don't buy jewelry, they make their own jewelry, they paint their own houses. And so art becomes such a part of their life that I think we all should try to be tribals. Because many times they're discarded as primitive, but they're not primitive. They are the most sincere, they live a most honest life, which is in a close association with nature. They love nature, they love environment, and at the same time, they love art. So these are some of the pictures which I have just collected to tell you that how beautiful this is. When a modern fashion designer designs, they get inspiration from this very often. but this is the real. And so I always believe that we should all thrive to be tribals. There is a very nice philosophical idea where all arts strive to be music, because music just reaches your heart straight away. And the whole purpose of art is not to decorate your walls, but to decorate your souls. Make your souls sort of in perfect harmony with yourself and with your surroundings. And that's what art does. I think I will stop here with my opening remarks, and now we could have a discussion.
So I think this was a perfect, starting point to get us all thinking about, the way we view art and how much of a lack of knowledge all of us in general as a community have when it comes to, art. And, like you said, only, we've, the Da Vinci's and the Picassos and up to the M.F. Hussains who've kind of, come into popular stream, who've had mentions in Hollywood and Bollywood, films. Unfortunately, that remains the extent of, art knowledge. But somewhere I feel, it's not too late. We can take a U-turn and, try to educate ourselves a little more. One point that struck me is, and I had this question also, you mentioned that we should not direct our children and correct them when they're drawing and, when they're trying to express themselves. So, typically, you have art class teachers, right? You have drawing teachers, which is the first step, in which a child begins to learn art. And somehow, the art is very influenced by the stereotype of the scenery. You have the sloped house and one river and hills, which probably most Indians don't even get to see. So how do you think we as parents should, encourage natural expression? And do we, it could be art, for some it could be dance, for some it could be music. How do we give them exposure, give them different mediums and allow them to grow naturally? What's your, advice?
So it's like this, Picasso has this very famous statement where every child is an artist, but it is difficult to remain an artist when you grow up. So it essentially means that, an artist is childlike. I am a 62 years old child, and that's why I have continued to be an artist. A child has wonderment. The child looks everywhere and says, how beautiful. That's a world which is so beautiful, and child is all the time exploring this world.
In awe. Yeah.
Enjoying it in awe, and enjoying a little flower, enjoying a little butterfly, enjoying the gust of a wind, just leaves moving, the sun rising, everything is in awe. And then the child is sort of enjoying all that. And then the child is told, you do this, and this is good and this is bad. You are proud to be an Indian and proud to be this, and all these ideas are conditioning ideas. And you are told, be proud of your religion, be proud of your country, be proud of your mohalla, be proud of your state. So the child is slowly conditioned that this is good art or this is bad art, draw like this. So what happens is child is completely conditioned. It is like keeping a child on a vice, and trying to shape the child.
Yeah, assembly line.
This really happens, and the society, including the parents, are a conditioning machine for the child, a vice for the child. You must do this and you must do this. And this is actually this is worst for child's development, anybody's development. So the first thing that I think is what is important is you have to put your head and wash it clean for all this. I think Krishnamurti puts it very beautifully. I'm a great follower of Krishnamurti's idea of what education should be. And he says, education should teach you to be fearless. Absolutely fearless. The moment there is fear, that what will my teachers think if I do this? What will my father or mother think if I do this? Yeah. If I think like this? And then you only think what is already sort of told to you is the right thought, and you're not challenging. So, and then other most important thing, I think, deviating from as far as art is concerned, the moment you tell a child that a mango is to be drawn like this, or a train has to be like this, or a bus has to be like this, oh, you have made this wheel too big. This wheel is too small. I mean, if you see works of the greatest of artists, there can be one small wheel and one big wheel. Doesn't matter. It is what one expresses. I would have actually liked to show, that can be an independent lecture, but how the works of great artists, including Picasso, are more like a child. And to keep the child alive, the wonderment alive is most important. And that is what parents should strive to, not just to keep the wonderment alive in the children, but the parents should themselves educate themselves to be like that. Because unfortunately, they're already conditioned. And you feel that art is this and they have a fixed idea. So then it cannot change suddenly. So the only way this can happen is exposure to more and more art. Art, one of the most important function of art is not decoration. As I said, decoration of the soul, but art addresses many other concerns of human beings. I think if you want to take the discussion in that direction, let me tell you, animals are happy. A dog is happy with food, shelter, and they don't need clothing, but food and shelter. A dog is not interested in what kind of dog community, dog civilization existed 500 years ago. The dog is not interested. A dog is happy meeting a few dogs in that street and maybe a good-looking beach on the other street. But otherwise, dog is not concerned with any of these things. But human beings have needs which are beyond food, shelter, and clothing. We are interested in history. We are interested in memory. We are interested in kind of a certain eternity. We are interested in knowing about death. So these concerns of human beings, which are beyond food, shelter, and clothing, are basically satisfied by art. So that is the role art plays. Now, during COVID, what supported human beings all over the world? You were all locked. There was a lockdown. You couldn't go out. Imagine there was no music. There was no cinema. There was no literature. I mean, the whole humanity leaned their head on the shoulders of arts and that's how they survived. Because without arts, I think human beings are like animals.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think higher order needs are what finally, those of us who are blessed with the basics, you kind of tend towards that. And I think, dear parents, Subodh sir made a very important point. We appreciate the free thinkers, we appreciate innovative buildings, we appreciate, technology, which is so out of the box. But that comes from children who grow into adults who are allowed to kind of go places which are beyond your imagination. So it's very important that we constantly remind ourselves that, we don't need clones of ourselves. We learned that way, so you need to learn this way. And probably allow for that little bit of room and, take that leap of faith and allow them to express, I guess. Sir, I had this other question. You mentioned to me that, your child is also an artist now, right? Your son is an artist.
Siddharth.
So can you, sorry?
Yeah, his name is Siddharth.
Siddharth, okay. So, can you take us through what was your process as a parent, when you were bringing up Siddharth? And, today the concern for parents is, of course, it has changed from the previous generation, but still the security net that parents expect from formal education, everybody, the thinking today in middle class India, is still get your degrees and your PG degrees in place by which you're already 25 or something, and then say, then explore. So how do you, art still being, a career of risk, so to put it, what was your process bringing up, your son?
Okay, so let me answer this question in two parts. First of all, it is not important that everybody, art needs to be taken as a profession to enjoy art. But unless you are connected with arts, and when I say art, I don't mean painting and sculpture only, I mean literature, I mean theater, cinema, photography, all the arts. So unless you're connected with arts, I think you are a half human being. You cannot qualify to be an intelligent human being. That's because I will give you a little example. people go finish 12th standard science, get 98% marks, get into medical college or engineering college and finish their degrees, maybe do MBA.
Yeah.
Do all this and get a good job. Okay. Now, most of these people, and I can tell you from first-hand experience, I was once in a group of such audience who were, they had got 90 and 98% marks during their 12th standard, and they were very successful in life, or so they thought, because they had a good home and they had a good car, and all these needs were satisfied. But then when I started talking to them, I realized there is a huge lacuna. When I started talking to them about anything from arts to politics to sociology, history, I realized their worldview was exactly what it was when they were 18-year-olds. And after all this so-called success, the study and success and all this, they had not bothered, or they had never had an opportunity to read anything apart from something connected with their profession. It could be in medical, new methods of treating malaria or typhoid, or new methods of repairing a pump, or new methods of making more money by investing in the right place. But apart from this, they had not read anything. So their worldview was exactly what it was when they were 18 years old. They had no idea of poetry, the world of poetry. They didn't have any idea about the world of cinema, or theater, of political science, sociology. And so I think they were incomplete. And they cannot be fully happy, because to be completely happy, you need to be more humane. And to make yourself more humane, it is important to pursue all arts. So when you study art, that doesn't mean you have to become an artist. It is enough you could appreciate art.
Appreciation, yes.
Yeah, so the appreciation is good enough. So for me, like going around, looking at just a good landscape, or going to Venice Biennale, or going to India Art Fair, or Kochi Muziris Biennale, or coming to the Janajati Museum in Bhopal, this is such a great pleasure. You feel more human. You feel more connected with the whole world. And your ego also dissolves, because when you understand arts, you become more humane. And that is the purpose of art, is to make more humane and to make
beautifully put.
Yeah,
absolutely. So can you recommend a few places to our audience in India? One is, guys, I have to tell you, Museum of Goa is such a beautiful, place. My children and I spent so much time, and they were absolutely in awe of what, basic structures could be transformed into. So I would tell everybody, go to, MOG next time you're in Goa. But sir, are there other places in India that you can recommend?
Yeah, there are many places. The first thing I would say is I'm doing one of the programs myself, where I would like to send to every school in the country a set of about 30 images every 15 days, curated by me, selected from good art from all over the world. And we expect schools to just have some large television screens on which they're displayed with a little comment. After 20 seconds, the image will linger. And after 20 seconds, you will get a little description of that image, that work of art. There will be videos. So this is a way which I have devised to expose more and more people to art. You were asking me about my son. Now, I became a doctor at the age of, say, 24. My father was an artist, but a realistic artist. So my exposure to art and appreciation of art was restricted to realistic painting. That's because my father could not sort of appreciate abstractions, etc. And so I thought that this is what is art. Okay, I will give you an example about this from your own state. The inauguration of Bharat Bhavan happened somewhere in 1985.
84, yeah, 85, yeah.
84. Yeah, it was inaugurated by Indira Gandhi.
Right.
Arjun Singh was the chief minister at that time. And Ashok Vajpayee was the secretary of culture. And so I know all this because Ashok Vajpayee is a friend of mine. And the chief minister said, "Tum kuch art institute banana chahte ho na, abhi banao." So Bharat Bhavan was started. The architect was from Goa, Charles Correa. And then Swaminathan was the first director. Now he did a very interesting thing. He thought that we will have two exhibitions for the inauguration. One exhibition was by the tribal artists of Madhya Pradesh, And another exhibition was the abstract artist of India during this time, which included Gaitonde, Swaminathan himself, Raza. So all these artists showed their abstract work, and the tribals showed their work. Now, since an Indira Gandhi was inaugurating, and is the most important institution in Bhopal being inaugurated, so everybody important was invited. So all the educated people, the rich people, the businessmen, they all came to see the exhibition. And the tribals also came because they were part of the exhibition. Now, the educated people stood in front of the abstract art of Gaitonde and asked the question, what is the meaning of this? Iska matlab kya hai? Hame samajh nahi aa raha hai. Now, tribals stood in front of Gaitonde's painting and said, wow. So they could connect with it because they were not conditioned. The educated people were already conditioned, not all of them, but most of them. And so the tribals could appreciate. That's because they were not conditioned. This is a great story because this tells you, when I made my statement, be tribal, that basically means don't get conditioned by a lot of nonsense. So my son, so I was not exposed. Exposure is the most important thing. My son, by the time I was 18 years old, came 3 times to Venice Biennale with me, one of the greatest exhibitions in the world. Now, his exposure was so much that by the time he was just about 15-year-old, he could already he was a good artist. And today I can claim that he's a better artist than me. And that is absolutely right thing to do, because if my son is less than me and his son is less than him, then ultimately we will have a generation of morons. So it is very important that your children are better than you.
Right, right. Absolutely. I think we all, the evolution is, we bank on the hope that the, generations ahead are better than us.
Yeah. So one of the suggestions I would give to my audience today is, I have my Instagram channel, which is, my Instagram is Subodh Kerkar. And there I don't wear nice shirts and show off myself. I only do art education. So that will be interesting to follow. And also we are soon starting a YouTube channel. I already have one, but I'm starting a YouTube channel for which we are looking for support from different organizations, where the talks on art, contemporary art, will be dubbed or translated in all the languages of India.
Beautiful. Very nice.
Because only 10.6% of India knows English.
Yeah.
And so if you want to connect with the masses of this country and educate them in art, it has to be done in vernacular languages.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. And, I think this is the right approach. I think multiple languages and, contemporary, tribal, I think everything goes hand in hand. I think we're such a diverse nation with, such diverse populations that, these are the approaches in which we, massify and, get art to be appreciated by not just the connoisseurs or those who bid and go to auctions and buy art, but even ordinary people can appreciate art as well. So, sir, you were mentioning a couple of places to us that parents and children can visit in India.
Yeah, I think in Bhopal itself,
there's Bharat Bhavan.
Are definitely very, very good places. India Art Fair, which happens every year, the National Gallery of Modern Art. We have Kochi Museum's Biennale. And of course, Museum of Goa here. But all this is good, but it's also the internet is a great space.
Okay.
You need a little bit of a guidance, because today we live in a world where there's a bombardment of images. We never had a period where there's so many images which are bombarded at us. So it is very difficult to understand what is art and what is not art. Because with social media, with everything, with magazines, newspapers, and Facebook, and everywhere we get images. So I think a little bit guidance is required when you want to sort of follow art. But I think this can be easily given in especially schools and colleges, where teachers could also undergo a good training in certain kind of courses which are available. And so that will help.
So I have another question on technology and art.
Yeah.
Do you simulate using software? Do you use any online mediums to kind of help you in your installations? Does it work that way, or do you purely work with mediums?
First of all, there is nothing called pure, neither in art nor in cultures.
Okay.
So one thing we have to understand, that this is a country with such diverse cultures. And there is nothing called pure culture. The idea of pure culture is absolute nonsense. It is like believing that there is a non-peeing area in a swimming pool. It does not exist.
Okay.
And so we have to understand that there is it is a very, very diverse country, a plural country, and that is the strength of this country. And it has, and so now in art, again, there is nothing called pure. Art is an expression of time, and every expression of every time, every era is different. The way the tribals, the prehistoric men drew was a true expression, and it was great work of art. Then it changes to realistic stuff, and it changes to many different things. So each period, each time has its own expression. So the idea of installation came. So the way people express changes. Shakespeare's poems are completely different from poems by a contemporary poet of today. The same way the literature of the past is different, the style is different. And now we have so much of technology, which is very, very important. And I make use of it right now. The very fact that we are using this medium of internet to have a conversation,
Yes.
Itself proves that now things are changing, and we have to adapt to the new technologies and new ways of expressing.
Yeah.
And which is very exciting, mind you. I'm 62 years old, but I still learn, and I've just learned to fly a drone.
Lovely. So that's the point, right? There's so many tools that, I mean, today I think young students are creating films, and they're doing editing, and they're creating so much online. So there's so much the canvas is so large.
Yeah. So I think I believe I'm an optimist, and I'm sure things will change. I mean, this kind of conversations, universities which are headed by people with total open ideas like you, will all definitely help permeate new freedom, new ideas, and things should change. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful chat. And dear parents, I hope really this tickled your senses, and I am longing to get out there and try to figure out what else I can do for my kids. And I think exposure, if I take one word out of this is exposure, and just keep an open mind when it comes to art appreciation. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. See you soon.